Let's do a positive story about neo-Nazis. I know that sounds impossible, but bear with me and you'll see what I'm talking about. The German town of Wunsiedel, that's my best German accent, I hope you like it, has had neo-Nazi demonstrations for decades. And the reason why it's happening in this town is because a former top Nazi official was buried there, and they do this silly thing where they all come and pay their respects to the asshole Nazi. And it got to the point where it was so bad that the town dug up the Nazi and cremated him so that the people would stop coming. The grave was no longer there. Well, they didn't stop coming. They still do their march. They still go through the motions. So some really smart people decided, how about we set up a march for charity that takes the same route as the neo-Nazi march on the same day, and then we donate money for the people who walk in it. So the more people that walk, the more money they donate. And the money's going to go to a neo-Nazi camp that revives people from extremist ideologies. I love this idea. So they set this up. The neo-Nazis had no idea. When they finished their march, they were greeted with a banner that said they just raised 10,000 euros for a group called Exit, which rehabilitates neo-Nazis. It's just so genius. I love this. Now, when I first read the headline, I was like, oh, like it said they tricked neo-Nazis into raising funds for the opposite of their ideology. And at first I was like, I'm not sure, obviously everybody hates neo-Nazis, but I'm not sure that's good. That's like fraud, right? But no, the way they set it up was so clever. It's not fraud. It's just that they marched down an area where they set up this fundraiser and they just donated money for the number of people, however many people walk by. Okay, great. We'll donate more money the more people walk. So it's not like they're really giving their money to this program, but other people were giving money for looking at the people marching. See what I mean? The more people that crossed, then they paid more money. So there's no fraud here. It's just a really clever idea to raise money to be anti-neo-Nazis with neo-Nazis. So great. Now, I was talking about this with my friend recently, and it's just endlessly fascinating to me that Nazism still exists. Because a lot of people don't know this. I know this because I've watched about 472 documentaries on Nazi Germany. But Nazism is based largely on what's called German mysticism, which is this set of fairy tales that people who grew up in the Germanic areas that they grew up with. And it's totally fictitious, but they're the kinds of stories that are borderline where if somebody's not bright and there's no science around, they might actually believe it. So some of the stories were, for example, that there used to be a time when there was a Germanic tribe which basically ruled the world, and it was a group of Aryans. The Aryans, of course, were blonde-haired, blue-eyed, they were tall, they were muscular, and they were just superior to everybody. And in German mysticism, there's this spectrum of humanity where you have the Aryans on one side, and then, you go down the line, they think people who are still, have good genetics are Greeks and Italians, by the way, as shown by Mussolini, the Italian being with Nazi Germany in the war. So they accept those people, and then they get more and more towards the end. Of course, they don't like black people because historically, unfortunately, everybody's been racist. And then on the very end of the other end of the spectrum is Jews, and they think they're engaged in this cosmic battle with Jewish people for the fate of humanity, and they need to purify the gene pool and get rid of the big, bad, evil Jews. I'm not kidding. This is what they actually believe. It's German mysticism. It's fictitious. There never was an Aryan race, but they really believed it. They really believed it. And that's why it's so fascinating to me is that Nazism is more of a religion than it is a political ideology. It manifests itself in real life with a gross, disgusting, fascist political ideology that involves genocide and all this terrible shit, but it is more of a religion. But what's stunning to me is that people still fucking believe it! The same thing with all the religions, whether it's Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or Scientology or Mormonism, people still believe it. And that's the thing with Nazism is there was a Holocaust and a genocide in the name of it recently, but dunces still say, I think it's factual. But it's not factual. It's not factual. And this gets to my final point on this. I think it has more to do with deeper human emotions and feelings than it does with the logic of it, because there is no logic to Nazism. I just explained to you it's based on German mysticism, and it's fucking made up. So it's got more to do with people wanting to feel like they belong to a community, people wanting to feel like they have a higher purpose, people feeling closer together through tribalism and the in-group, out-group mentality about how we are good people, we are just people, we are the right people, we are the chosen people, the goddamn Jews are the evil people. It's got more to do with that. But again, the reason why it's fascinating to me is that we still live in a world where people are dumb enough to fucking buy it. Stop. Just stop. Science exists. We know it's not true. We know it's stupid. We know it's false. Get over it. And I'm very happy that some neo-Nazis somehow raise money now for neo-Nazi reformist groups.